Such a pleasure to be here in Ottawa on this day.
The royal family is facing serious confusion after Prince Edward's lawyers confirmed a shocking double title switch. This unexpected change has raised many questions about royal rules, tradition, and what happens next inside the palace. People are now watching closely as this story unfolds. What does this double title switch really mean? Could it change royal history? Join us as we uncover everything. A quiet decision that took years to unfold. If there is anything the royal household has shown over time, it is that the most complex moments are never fully understood at first glance. They are not clear from simple announcements or short statements. To truly understand them, you have to look deeper. You have to pay attention to timing, structure, and the quiet choices that sit beneath what is made public. In this case, everything began in the year 1999, when Prince Edward married Sophie Rhys-Jones at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. At that time, there was a strong and clear expectation about what would happen next. Everyone believed that Edward would receive a dukedom. This was not just a guess. It followed a long-standing tradition within the royal family. His older brothers had followed that same path. Prince Charles had become the Prince of Wales and also the Duke of Cornwall. Prince Andrew had been made the Duke of York. So, naturally, Edward was expected to receive a similar title. The pattern was well known, and it had been repeated enough times that it felt almost automatic. A dukedom was more than just a title. It represented rank, position, and continuity within the royal structure. It showed where a person stood in the order of the family. Because of this, there was very little doubt about what Edward's title would be. But then something unexpected happened. The palace made an announcement that surprised many people. Instead of becoming a duke, Edward would become an earl. He was given the title Earl of Wessex. This decision stood out immediately because it broke away from the usual tradition. Soon after the wedding, reports began to appear explaining how this unusual choice came about. According to those reports, Edward had taken an interest in the title after watching a film released in 1998 called Shakespeare in Love. In that film, a character named Lord Wessex was played by Colin Firth. The idea that a royal title could be influenced by a film character was very unusual. It was not the kind of detail people expected to hear when it came to royal decisions. A future duke choosing a title connected to a character from a period film about Queen Elizabeth and a playwright was something that quickly caught public attention. This detail was never part of any official statement. However, it continued to appear in discussions and reports over time. Whether it was the main reason or simply one influence has never been clearly confirmed. Still, the connection between the title and the film remained part of the wider conversation. Following the announcement, Edward became the Earl of Wessex, and Sophie became the Countess of Wessex. At the same time, another important detail was shared. Buckingham Palace confirmed that there was a plan already agreed upon by Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, and the Prince of Wales. That plan was that Edward would, in time, receive the title Duke of Edinburgh. This was a very important title, held by his father, Prince Philip. It carried deep history and strong meaning within the royal family. However, the timing was not immediate. The title would not be passed on while Prince Philip was still alive. It would also not happen while the Queen remained on the throne. Instead, the decision was tied to future events. It would happen when the time was right, based on succession and circumstance. That moment took 24 years to arrive. During those years, Edward and Sophie slowly took on more responsibilities. They carried out public engagements and supported various charities. They remained steady and consistent in their roles. They were not always at the center of attention, but they continued to play an active part in the working structure of the monarchy. Even so, the promise about the title remained in the background. It was not forgotten, but it was not acted on either. Then, events began to move. Prince Philip passed away in April 2021. Queen Elizabeth passed away in September 2022. These moments changed the structure of the royal family. Finally, on the 10th of March 2023, which was Edward's 59th birthday, King Charles III officially gave him the title Duke of Edinburgh. Edward became a duke, and Sophie became a duchess. Their son, James, who had previously been known as Viscount Severn, took on the courtesy title Earl of Wessex. At last, the promise had been fulfilled. The titles had shifted into place after many years. However, almost as soon as this happened, new questions began to appear. The way King Charles III granted the dukedom was not simple. It was done in a manner that raised legal and structural questions. That decision has now become the starting point for everything that is being discussed today. Understanding the difference between life and hereditary peerages. When King Charles gave Edward the title of Duke of Edinburgh in the year 2023, he granted it as a life peerage. This detail is very important, yet many people did not notice it. It plays a key role in understanding what will happen to the title in the future. A life peerage, in simple terms, is held by one person only. It does not pass down to children or future generations. It belongs only to the individual who receives it. This means it is personal, not family-based. Because of this, when Edward dies, the Dukedom of Edinburgh will not pass automatically to his son, James. Instead, the title will return to the crown. At that point, it will stop existing in its current form and can only be created again if a future monarch decides to do so. This is very different from the Earldom of Wessex, which Edward has held since the year 1999. The earldom is a hereditary peerage. This means it follows a clear line of succession within the family. When Edward dies, this title will pass directly to James. He will inherit it fully and become the Earl of Wessex in his own right. He will not be using it as a temporary or courtesy title anymore. It will officially belong to him. In addition to this, James will also inherit the Earldom of Forfar. This title was given to Edward by Queen Elizabeth in the year 2019. Like the Earldom of Wessex, it is also hereditary. Both of these titles will continue through the family line in the usual way, passing from one generation to the next. The Dukedom of Edinburgh does not follow this pattern. It will end with Edward. This creates a rare situation within the same family. One title continues through inheritance, while the other ends with a single lifetime. Both titles exist together, but they follow completely different systems. One is permanent and passed down. The other is temporary and personal. As of the year 2026, Edward holds both the Dukedom of Edinburgh and the Earldom of Wessex at the same time. One of these titles is based on his lifetime, while the other is hereditary. At the same time, James is already using the title Earl of Wessex as a courtesy. This is because, as the eldest son of a duke, he is allowed to use one of his father's secondary titles. This situation creates an unusual overlap. Both father and son are connected to the same title at the same time, but in different ways. Edward holds the title officially. James uses it by tradition and social custom. When Edward dies, the Dukedom of Edinburgh will come to an end. After that, James will formally inherit the Earldom of Wessex. The title he has been using as a courtesy will then become his actual hereditary title. This change may seem simple, but it still needs formal recognition. The system of titles must be properly recorded and adjusted to reflect the transition. The overlap between courtesy use and formal ownership must be clearly settled within the peerage system. There is also an additional layer to this situation that makes it more complex than it first appears. It is something that many people are not aware of, yet it plays a role in how these titles are structured and passed on. The quiet complexity of royal entitlement and legal structure. In 1917, King George V issued letters patent that clearly defined which members of the royal family could use the style of His or Her Royal Highness and hold the titles of Prince or Princess. According to these rules, all grandchildren of a British monarch through the male line are automatically entitled to these royal styles and titles. This means that James Mountbatten Windsor, as the son of Edward, who is himself the son of a monarch, is legally entitled to be known as His Royal Highness Prince James of Edinburgh. This entitlement has always existed. It has never been removed. It has simply never been used. When James and his sister, Lady Louise, were born, their parents, Edward and Sophie, made a clear and thoughtful decision. They chose to raise their children without using royal titles in daily life. Their aim was to give them as normal an upbringing as possible. At the same time, they left the choice open for both children to decide for themselves in the future. They could choose to use their titles once they reached adulthood. This approach was confirmed publicly in an interview in the year 2020. Sophie explained that both children had the right to use their titles from the age of 18, but she also expressed that it was very unlikely they would choose to do so. James turned 18 in December 2025. When that moment came, he did not take up the style of His Royal Highness. He made no move to begin using the title. Those close to the family described this decision as fully in line with his character and the way he was raised. There was no surprise and no expectation that he would choose differently. However, while this decision seems simple on the surface, the legal situation behind it is much more detailed. When it comes to formal royal structures, personal choices do not remove legal realities. This is where Edward's legal advisors become involved in a very precise way. As they work to formally define the structure of Edward's titles, they cannot treat James as an ordinary private individual. The law does not allow that. The entitlement to the style of His Royal Highness still exists under the 1917 letters patent. It is not symbolic. It is not optional in a legal sense. It is a real and active constitutional entitlement that remains in place, even if it is not being used in practice. This creates a procedural challenge. Any official legal documents that describe the structure of Edward's dukedom and the hereditary earldom connected to it must fully recognize James's position. He exists in three roles at the same time. First, he is known as the courtesy Earl of Wessex. Second, he is the future holder of the hereditary earldom of Wessex and Forfar. Third, he is someone who is legally entitled to be a prince with the style of His Royal Highness, even though he has chosen not to use it. Royal legal practice must handle this with great care. In most cases, such overlaps do not happen. Members of the royal family either actively use their titles or they are formally removed through clear legal steps. James's situation is different. Nothing has been taken away, nothing has been activated, and everything remains available but unused. Experts in royal law describe this kind of situation as an inactive entitlement structure. This means that the rights exist fully but are not being exercised. Even so, they must still be included in official records. This is not about how a person presents themselves in public. It is about maintaining full constitutional accuracy. Institutions like the Crown Office, the College of Arms, and royal legal advisors do not focus only on what is visible. They must also record what is legally possible, even if it is never used. Because of this, when Edward's titles are formally documented, James's entitlement to His Royal Highness cannot be ignored. It must be included as part of the legal framework. This does not mean there is any expectation that James will change his decision. It does not suggest any future shift. It simply reflects the way the monarchy's legal system works. Within this system, nothing can remain unaccounted for. Every status must be clearly defined as either active, removed, or existing but unused. This is why the situation is seen as unusual. It is not controversial or personal. It is purely a matter of legal structure. Different parts of royal law are working together at the same time. The peerage system, the letters patent, and the rules around courtesy titles are all applying within one family line in a way that is rarely seen so clearly. A careful decision shaping the future. When Prince Philip passed away in April 2021, the title of Duke of Edinburgh moved automatically to his eldest son, King Charles III. This followed the traditional system, where such titles passed directly to the next in line. However, this situation changed in September 2022, when Charles became king. At that moment, the title merged with the crown and stopped existing as a separate title. From then on, it became entirely his choice whether to create the title again and give it to his younger brother, Prince Edward. For a long time, it seemed that this might not happen. In July 2021, a report by the Times stated that Charles had decided not to give the Duke of Edinburgh title to Edward. This report was not denied by Clarence House, which added weight to the claim. As a result, many began to believe that the title would not be passed on in the expected way. At the same time, royal commentators observed that Edward had been taking on more duties. He had been increasing his workload steadily, especially during times when the royal family was facing changes and internal challenges. His role became more visible, and he carried out responsibilities that were once shared among several working royals. Many people saw him as one of the most stable and reliable members of the family. His long connection with the Duke of Edinburgh's award, one of Prince Philip's most important legacies, made his position even more meaningful in the eyes of the public. Because of this, the idea that Edward might not receive the title felt unusual to many observers. It seemed like a break from tradition rather than a continuation of it. However, there were deeper concerns behind the scenes. Reports from royal correspondence suggested that discussions were taking place within palace circles about the wider impact of granting the title. The Duke of Edinburgh title carries strong symbolic importance, especially in relation to Scotland. Any decision about it had to be considered carefully, particularly during a time when political feelings and discussions about independence were evolving. The situation began to change later, after the resignation of Nicola Sturgeon, and as the political momentum around Scottish independence shifted, the wider environment became less tense. By March 2023, the conditions were calmer. The earlier concerns had not fully disappeared, but they were no longer as urgent as before. On Edward's 59th birthday in March 2023, the final decision was announced. The promise made in 1999 was fulfilled, and he was given the Duke of Edinburgh title. However, this was done in a very careful and thoughtful way. The title was not created as a hereditary one. Instead, it was given as a life peerage. This meant that the title would not automatically pass down through Edward's family line. This decision was not accidental. It was part of a larger plan about the future of the monarchy. When Edward eventually passes away, the title will return to the crown instead of continuing through his descendants. This creates an opportunity for the title to be given again in the future. According to reports from late 2022, one of the leading possibilities for the future of the title involves Princess Charlotte. She is currently second in line to the throne, following her father, Prince William, and her brother, Prince George. As she grows older, her public role is expected to become more important. If the Duke of Edinburgh title is given to her in the future, it would carry deep symbolic meaning. The title was first created for Prince Philip in 1947, when he married Queen Elizabeth II. It later passed to Charles in 2021, and was recreated for Edward in 2023. One day, it could belong to Charlotte, the granddaughter of the Queen for whom it was originally created. The title, Duchess of Edinburgh, once held as a courtesy style by the future Queen, would return to a female member of the royal line who is also close to the throne. This possibility is only available because the title was created as a life peerage. If it had been made hereditary, it would have passed to Edward's son, James Mountbatten Windsor, and then continued through his descendants. In that case, Charlotte would not have had any claim to it. By choosing a life peerage, Charles ensured that the title could be used again in a way that supports the future direction of the monarchy. A quiet strength behind royal titles. There is one more important part of this story that makes the situation around the title even more meaningful when it is viewed in full. It is very easy to focus only on the legal side of peerages, the timing of official announcements, or the technical rules that guide how titles are passed, granted, or restricted. These details matter, but they do not exist on their own. They are closely connected to a specific period in recent royal history, a period that quietly reshaped the institution and increased the importance of the individuals who continued to carry out royal duties. Between the years 2020 and 2023, the working royal family became much smaller. This change did not happen slowly over a long time. Instead, it happened within a short period, and it had a clear effect on how the institution functioned. In January 2020, Prince Harry and Meghan stepped back from their roles as working members of the royal family. This decision removed two visible and active figures from the group responsible for public duties. Then, in November 2021, Prince Andrew was formally removed from public duties. This followed the serious public reaction connected to his links with Jeffrey Epstein. After these changes, the number of senior working royals was reduced in a noticeable way. The responsibility for representing the monarchy and carrying out its public work became concentrated in a smaller group of individuals. At that point, the main working members included King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Catherine, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward with Sophie. What had once been a broader and more shared structure became much narrower. As a result, the demands placed on those who remained increased very quickly. There were more engagements to attend, more responsibilities to manage, and more expectations to meet. During this period, Prince Edward and Sophie did not publicly react to the increased pressure. They did not speak about the added responsibilities in interviews. They did not try to change how they were seen by the public, and they did not use the situation to seek a more prominent position within the royal family. Instead, they adjusted quietly and continued their work. They took on more official engagements, traveled to more places, and represented the king in a wider range of situations. Their efforts helped maintain the steady operation of royal duties at a time when the institution was facing clear challenges. Their approach was not based on gaining attention, but on maintaining consistency. This consistency became more noticeable because fewer people were available to share the workload. Sophie, in particular, received quiet recognition within royal circles for how she managed her expanded responsibilities. Her approach was seen as calm, steady, and dependable. During a time when public attention on the monarchy could be intense and sometimes unpredictable, her manner remained balanced and controlled. This type of response was valued, especially because it did not seek attention or personal advantage. Importantly, this recognition did not turn into public promotion or personal elevation. It remained within the framework of duty. This makes it more significant when looking back, because it shows a pattern of behavior that stayed consistent even when circumstances changed. This wider context gives deeper meaning to the story of the Edinburgh title. Prince Edward and Sophie did not build their position by competing with others or creating pressure within the institution. They did not try to force change or draw attention to their status. Instead, they continued to work within the structure that existed, accepting their roles as they were given. The title that Prince Edward received in 2023 was not granted quickly, and it was not certain for many years. There had been a long period of waiting, lasting more than 2 decades. During that time, there was no clear guarantee that the title would eventually be given to him. When it was finally granted, it came with a specific condition that limited its continuation within his family line. Even with these conditions, Prince Edward accepted the title without any public disagreement. He did not attempt to present the moment as something larger than it was. The announcement remained formal and straightforward, and his response followed the same pattern that had defined his role over many years. This reaction is important because it reflects a consistent approach. It shows a preference for continuity rather than visibility, for function rather than prominence, and for acceptance rather than negotiation. These qualities have shaped his position within the royal family over time. How James and Lady Louise are redefining royal roles. James and Lady Louise have followed a similar approach to life, though their situation is very different from others in the royal family. Lady Louise has been seen working at a garden center and studying at St. Andrews University, the same university where Prince William and Catherine first met. Her life has remained mostly outside the royal spotlight. It has been shaped more by education and personal work than by formal royal duties. This quiet and steady path has allowed her to grow without the constant attention that often surrounds royal life. James, now 18, has also shown a clear lack of interest in royal titles or public royal responsibilities. Even though he is legally entitled to use the style of His Royal Highness under the rules set out in 1917, he has chosen not to use it. This entitlement still exists and remains part of his legal identity, but it does not define who he is. Both James and Lady Louise have grown up knowing that they could use the His Royal Highness title if they wished. Both have decided not to take that path. In a royal family where some members have, in recent years, questioned or stepped away from traditional roles and expectations, this kind of quiet restraint stands out. It is not loud or dramatic, and it is not performed for public attention. It is simply a natural lack of interest in a system that once shaped earlier generations in very visible ways. In a calm and thoughtful way, this may be one of the most meaningful continuations of all. It reflects not only how Edward and Sophie have approached their own roles, but also how the next generation is choosing to understand what those roles mean in a system built on visibility, inheritance, and clear status. One of the most noticeable patterns in all of this is the absence of urgency. There is no rush, no pressure, and no immediate need to make firm decisions. This raises an important question about what comes next for this part of the family. At present, legal experts are working through the formal details of the double title situation. This includes confirming what will happen to the earldom of Wessex when Edward passes away, how James will formally take on the main title, and how the unused His Royal Highness entitlement will be handled in official documents. This process is still ongoing. It is not urgent right now because Prince Edward is 62 years old and in good health. However, matters like this require careful planning ahead of time rather than quick decisions later. That is exactly what is being done for James. Once all the formal steps are completed, the situation becomes much clearer. James will inherit the titles of Wessex and Forfar. He will not inherit the Dukedom of Edinburgh. He will still have the option to use the His Royal Highness style and be known as Prince James throughout his life, but he has shown no desire to do so. It is very likely that he will live a life connected to the royal family through both blood and title, but not defined by them. His parents have worked carefully to give him that freedom, and he appears to have accepted it. Looking at the Dukedom of Edinburgh itself, the future becomes more open. When Edward passes away, the title will return to the crown. At that point, King William will have the option to create the title again for Princess Charlotte if he chooses. This decision will depend on many factors, including the political situation, the state of matters relating to Scotland, Charlotte's own role in public life at that time, and the overall shape of the working royal family. None of these can be clearly predicted right now, but the legal structure that allows this choice has already been put in place. The opportunity exists, even if the final decision belongs to the future. What is happening now through Edward's legal team is a careful and responsible handling of a very unusual situation. It is not chaotic, but it is detailed and complex. This complexity comes from a promise made in 1999 and fulfilled in 2023 in a way that supports the long-term future of the institution, rather than simply benefiting one part of the impasuted family. It also shows how carefully the idea of a smaller, more focused monarchy is being shaped. This is not only about who appears at public events, but also about who holds certain titles, for how long, and for what purpose. All of this leaves an open question for the future. Should the Dukedom of Edinburgh one day be given to Princess Charlotte, and have Edward and Sophie manage their roles in a way that deserves more attention and appreciation than they have received?